You are listening to Off Color, a podcast where we talk about race and help you learn how to talk about race, hopefully. I'm Rebecca Henderson, a.k.a. the Tan Tigress, a.k.a. the African from, well, kinda. And I got my producer and my white homie, James. And this is Off Color.
I had to wear a fucking sling and shit.
Yeah. So this evening in the basement, we are very honored and fortunate to have the young Allan Tellis here with us this evening. Allan was not only a friend of Dr. Diggs, we are always thinking of him. But Allan is an award-winning journalist. Allan is a local writer here for a publication called the Denverite, which is, in my opinion, some of the most groundbreaking progressive news that I've seen on a local level like that. I feel like it's pretty informative, and I think that we are really lucky to have you here tonight. So thanks so much for coming, Allan.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. Shouts out to Denverite. I really do like what we're doing over there. I think it's important. I think people should check it out. I think we're doing some really cool stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of the topics that you've covered, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is because of your coverage of some of the more salacious racial incidents that have occurred recently.
Yeah, and I love that Dave is the head editor there. He doesn't mind. As like we really try to stick to the journalistic code, so to speak. So if it's like, if you're telling the truth, he doesn't mind me picking out things that I think need to be said. You know, like it might be a little uncomfortable to talk about. You know, like it might upset people just a little bit, but as long as it's the truth, like I feel like it should be talked about, you know, are these things that they're insidious, they fester, you know what I mean? Like, let's just talk, let me hear both sides too. And I think that's cool. And I think that makes me feel more comfortable dealing with those topics is because I'm not quick to jump down somebody's throat. It's like, let me hear what you got to say. Let me hear what you got to say. And the truth will be somewhere in the middle. So I think that helps a lot too. Just being like open, like, okay, I can go over there and just listen. Like, regardless of what you got to say, just tell me, like, explain to me, you know what I mean?
I do, and I'm looking at you. The reason I'm laughing is because I'm like, I can't do it. Yeah. Because I'm too crazy, like I'm too mad.
And let me, the disclaimer, my thoughts here may not reflect my thoughts as a journalist at the Denverite. But I watch the Tucker Carlson show every night. I watch Sean Hannity almost nightly, right? I check out Ben Shapiro. Like Ben Shapiro. Like I really be following these dudes. Milo, like these Steve Bannon. Like I need to know.
You got to know your enemy.
Yeah, that's exactly. Right. And I'm tired of like always bumping into incompetent people that can't quite express their frustration. So you'll feel these like kind of maybe sometimes white supremacist energies from people, right? But they can't quite eloquently explain why they feel that way. They're just upset. I need somebody that can sit down and explain to me why immigrants are ruining America. I need you to say it for 3 minutes straight, right? Like I don't need no dumb shit like fucking Obama. Like I don't need that, right? Like I need you to get a little, like even if you can't go super deep, just like give me like a layer deeper so then I can understand what's going on.
And so that's you're getting that out of these guys, the Ben Shapiro.
Like Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro is an intellect. I think he's short-sighted. I think he's like a very mediocre intellect, no disrespect. But like an intellect nonetheless. He's a philosopher of sorts. Like he seeks to break down the issue in the most logical way possible. Even if I think that logic is flawed, that at least gives me like something to follow. Like I could be like point A to point B to point. I see where point B disconnected with point C. It's like we can't get past point A. Everybody's gonna get mad, right? Like it's just gonna end up in this frustrating like fight at a rib shack. You know what I mean? Like type situation. You know, like the comedy scene.
Wait, James, you ever been in a fight at a rib shack?
You know what I mean? Like,
not with Ben Shapiro.
I'm taking you in the third round. Like, I really like your eyes. I give my guy Ben.
Well, you really are touching on something for me now that has been kind of on my mind this week because with some of the news that has come through, I hear a lot of times, and I people saying, oh, you know, black people and brown people, you know, they're so angry. Why can't they just get over it? Yeah. You know, I feel like that's a very common thing that we hear regularly. It's like so tiring, even just hearing it.
And I think like in a logical way, then it's easy to explain that to people for me. Like, it's like, look at what happened. Like, maybe that's the journalist in me, but like simply laying out the facts. And if you know the basic nature of people, why wouldn't you be mad? If they ghettoized you, why wouldn't you be mad? If they gave you Jim Crow, why wouldn't you be mad? If they beat your granddaddy up, why wouldn't you be mad? If your uncle couldn't get a job when he came back from the war because of segregation, why wouldn't you be mad? If your obesity rate was 15 times that of your peers, why wouldn't you be mad? You know, like, just like literally look, man. Like, and if you can't even acknowledge that, I think, again, you on the A level for me, so it's not even worth, like, the engagement. Like, the type of person that would say that, like, black people are just mad for no reason. Like, I don't think I gotta listen to past that sentence. You know what I mean? Like, just go ahead, because you don't get it. Like, there's not much fertile ground to like explain to you why who wouldn't be mad, right?
So this week the Starbucks controversy. I'm pretty sure most people have heard of this, but in case you living under a rock or whatever, in Philly, there was an incident where these two black men were trying to use the bathroom at the Starbucks while they were waiting for their friend, and they called the police and had them arrested. And the fallout from it, because it was video recorded, you know, on someone's phone, was now the manager has not necessarily been fired, but Starbucks just announced that they're going to be closing every Starbucks location on May 29th for racial bias training. And I'm sorry, but when I saw that, I was like, I'm sure that's going to go great. You know, like I don't know. But then I also feel like, okay, like I think America needs to take off May 29th also, right? And we all need a racial bias training as well. I don't know. I was enraged by it because it's frustrating because it's just another thing that just like keeps happening. And so this week I've just been like feeling that frustration. And I feel like I'm a person that is not particularly eloquent about my anger and frustration. I'm like, fucking goddamn white people and white supremacy. Like that's what I end up feeling like. And then just let someone say, but you're half white, Rebecca. Oh no! Don't even. Then I go really crazy. So I'm just trying to maybe work a little bit on bringing it in and being able to converse in a way that is perhaps more beneficial than me doing my typical, oh, white people are bitches. I know I'm not supposed to say that. I said I wasn't going to say it anymore.
That was a quote in a quote. You're
good. You've only said it once in like 7 minutes. So
just kidding, white people, you okay.
I think, at least for me, one, there's reefer. That's a very calming agent in my life. And two, a lot of my heroes were super calm dudes. So it's like, I think who did the most for me in terms of racial discussions was actually James Baldwin, right? And he's a very, very soft-spoken guy. Like, very, very quiet, very, very much like he probably wouldn't talk till you asked him a question. And it's like, I feel like I would like to contribute that so that I move my energy in that direction. Fred Hampton is my favorite Panther. Fred Hampton was the quiet Panther. Like, he would get loud doing speeches and shit, but like in general, like his essence, he was a very walk light, very quiet. And he said more to me than Huey did. And that's no disrespect to Huey, but it's like, I think, well, if I want to be like, if I want that to prosper, like that energy to proliferate, I gotta take part, like I gotta do my part. You know what I'm saying? So like I gotta move in that vein. Like, just really quietly let me think about what I'm trying to say, and then I'm gonna say it. And you can digest it, and we can go from there. You know, I feel like that's more beneficial. You know what I mean? Like overall, for the discussion, for me and the enemy, the opposition. You know what I mean? Like it's more, we both gonna be better if I can explain to you what's going on.
But do you feel like it's still this this idea though, where it's like we're like coddling or we have to behave in a certain way that's acceptable to the dominant culture.
Nah, see that I think that's like the beauty of being like really staunch in your position is then you don't feel the need to conform because you're so set, right? Like it's the people that like tend to want to shift are the people that don't know who they really are. Like they don't feel like strong in that. You know what I mean? When you feel strong, like you feel James Baldwin was a gay black dude from Harlem in like 1960. That's uncomfortable as fuck. You feel what I'm saying? And no one would tell you that would be the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like rampant homophobia, even exacerbated in the black community.
Yeah.
But he was so competent in explaining to you why he felt the way that he did. He could walk in that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not conform at all. Like no. I'm telling you that's racism. No. Let me be very, very clear. That is overt extreme racism. There was no kind of control. Like James Baldwin probably wrote harder than a lot. Like for instance, Jesse Jackson or something. You know what I mean? Like to actually no. I'm being very, very clear. That is racist. I'm not coddling you, bro. Like you have a problem deep within your culture. You need to fix that.
Yeah.
There was no like kind of. I don't think that vibe then creates a contortion of the person. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think you got to do that. And still not be like aggressive, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like though, I guess for me, because, and I think I may have already said this, but somebody on Twitter like came at me all hard and they were like, she's a mulatta that looks white and goes hard on the Afrocentric stuff. And I was like, true.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I do feel like I have to like overcompensate.
That's real, but I feel like that may be like privilege works in a million ways. In the terms of activism, I don't really got too many people trying to like try me in that way. So maybe I might wild out. Like if somebody was like, he's cooning as an Uncle Tom or something like to that same effect, I would lose my mind. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I would probably get mad too. But I guess I don't have to fight that fight. You feel me? Yeah. Cause like I'm a bigger black dude, got the dreadlocks, whatever. Nobody ever tries me in that. Like, are you true to what you say? Yeah. I don't have to. No, that's I didn't think about that, but nobody ever questions my like intentionalities. Yeah. Cause I'm always kind of on some pro-black stuff, whatever. Yeah. I look the part, whatever. Yeah. Like I never get.
Yeah, but they what happens with me, and I feel like this happens a lot, is the people will just be like, well, why are you so mad about this black stuff? Yeah. And I'm like,
enjoy it.
Why aren't you?
Well, that's a question. Like, if I was a white person, no disrespect, I might ask you as well. Like, the water is warm over here. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, you really gonna go out your way to fuck this? Yeah. This is great. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, why, for what? You know what I mean? You could come. We'll let you come sit at the fancy table.
But what happens to me, and this is like, I've gone off the rails on this conversation. Sorry, White James.
That's right.
But because for me, it's been different since I moved to Colorado.
Word.
Because I feel like my entire life, somebody asks me every day what my race is. Yeah. Literally every day. Yeah. And here it doesn't happen as frequently, although yesterday I did get asked if I was a Puerto Rican by a black dude in Spanish at the Cherry Creek Library.
Game. Son, he was like, I'm a bag.
He was like, it is Boricua. And I was like, no.
He was on the phone like, yo, I see a bad one. I think I know what to do. I think I'm going to hit her with the Spanish cuz. Walked around.
How do you ask people if they're Puerto Rican again?
But my friend Kimberly Ming, and she was on episode 8.
Okay,
she's a poet. She's Chinese Puerto Rican, and she's featuring. By the time this goes up, her feature will be over. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, but it is Friday. You missed it. So
it was great.
It was awesome. I did a poem. But she was saying that she feels like, because I've never had so many people tell me, like, oh, I think that you're white or you look white. Like, I have never had that experience until living here.
Colorado, especially Denver, is a real black and white city. I'm like black, white, and brown. Like, it's not. Where you from?
I'm from New York.
You feel me? There it is. Like, there's not these stratospheres. Like, people in Denver still, like, if you're from El Salvador, people might just say you Mexican type shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just not, there's not the saturation of the different, like, all the different levels that it could be. So it's like, you this or you that or you that. Like, there's not that, like, gradient that you could see in a place like New York that has, like, literally from Accra all the way to Shanghai to London to Puerto Rico, all on the same, like, maybe on the same train. Yeah. You know, like that. Denver's not there yet. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I know.
So, it makes sense to me, you know?
That's what she said, and it like helped me with that a little bit because like I do get offended. Yeah. And then people are like mad at me. Then they're like, well, why would you be offended by that? And it's like this idea, I do feel a certain level of perhaps shame. Yeah. That's not the right word for it. But I think it's because I always was othered my whole life. Yeah. And I always would say, my mom is white, but I'm not white. Yeah. And I'm not benefiting in the same way, even though I'll benefit more than you. Yeah. I'm still not going to get the same as him. Yeah. I'm pointing at White James, you guys. White James.
Yes, let the record show.
Here.
Anyway, sorry. That was just a side segue. Sidebar. But one of the things I wanted to talk about when you mentioned, you're gonna have to edit that, James. Don't say that, Rebecca. Sorry, James. No, I saw this article today from The Root. And they said that they are going to make the police in D.C. They have to learn Black history to curb their brutality. Yeah. And I actually feel like brutality isn't even really the right word. I think now we try to just call it police violence. Yeah. You know, because it's just, it is what it is. It is what it is, man. But they're required to take a critical race theory program. Okay. But can you imagine the conversations that these cops are going to be having after their class?
I don't even want to, really.
You know? So, listen, this is what they said. This is from the Washington Post, okay? The training will take a day and comprises 3 parts: a 3-hour lecture on Black history, a guided tour through the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and a lesson on U Street where officers examine police brutality.
That's in one day?
Yep.
I know it's one day. It's just like 3 parts.
If you have ever sat through
it's just a day.
A conference or a training session or whatever, how attentive are you by hour 5 of a one-day conference?
Yeah, what the hell is this?
So I feel like this sounds insane. A little bit to me, as to you also. And I was thinking of the program Dr. Diggs and I did. We have this program that we call Am I Racist? Yeah. And there were people that had to be there in the room, right? Yeah. And you could just feel it just coming off them in waves. Like they were like, this is some bullshit and I'm a good white person and I don't know why we have to like talk about this bullshit. I mean, you could just feel it, you know? They wouldn't write anything down. They wouldn't say anything. And so that's what I'm thinking that's going to do. So I still feel like people do not have it together when it comes to trying to teach this idea. The other thing I'm kind of sick of is this idea of unconscious bias. Yeah, and I say it all the time. I say that all the time, right? Because that's part of some of the work that I do. But lately I'm just feeling like, let's stop saying that it's like unconscious.
Out of your control.
I feel like it's pretty conscious these days.
Yeah.
Right, James?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think I agree there's obviously a lot of conscious bias, but I don't know. I think if you take the unconscious aspect out of it, then you let everybody off the hook who, if their racism isn't overt, then they can go back to that kind of 90s idea that it's like, well, I'm not proactively racist, so I'm good. I think uncovering the sort of unconscious stuff is kind of a big part of what's happening in this cultural moment, don't you think?
I agree with you in a way because I feel like it's like almost a cultural bias. It's like if you're American, you're probably going to ascribe to the American culture, and American culture produces these ideas. So like, you might be homogenous in a group and just not understand that you're doing something wrong. Like, it just might be that, like, for instance, American culture is very violent. Right? Like, we praise violence. We love violence. We have cop shows where cops are very aggressive and violent. And, you know, like, just, and then you get the badge and the shit and you don't realize that you're playing a part, like, in a movie that you didn't even know you were watching. You know what I mean? Like, and that's unconscious in a way, but you're actively acting out that role. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's, like, very, I see what you said. Like, I don't want that to be lost in the conversation. It's just, like, it is a little bigger than you. Like, it's not just you can't, like, you got a problem and you, like, it's like, we all got a problem and you're the vehicle for this problem this time.
Right.
And you might not know that you are doing that, you know?
But I get what Rebecca's saying. I think if I'm understanding what your issue with it is, it's like the unconscious in the like Freudian sense of the word means it's like a thing you can't control and can't do anything about. And so maybe that sort of lets people off the hook in sort of the other direction where you can just be like, well, everyone's a little racist, right?
But I feel like that is where it's turning, because at my work, where none of my opinions reflect my employer, we are starting to do this like diversity work, you know, and equity and inclusion and stuff. And I do feel like it's like people keep wanting to say, well, the racism is systemic and structural, and we're not saying you're a racist. And I'm kind of like, I am saying you are a racist.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to hear that and reflect on it and think about the things I'm saying to you and then get back to me.
Yeah, I feel you on that, because like, I think I end up at the same point. Is like, I think what I would want to just then be clear about is the second part. Is like, okay, you're a racist, but why are you a racist, right?
Yeah.
Like, are you a racist because you're an evil person? Do you just hate for hate's sake? Are you a racist because we produce racists? Like, we manufacture racists. Like, we lap in the world in producing racists. You know what I mean? Like, we one of the best. You know, like,
South Africa's number one according to Trevor Noah. He was like, your racism is good, but it's not as good as ours.
Because you're looking at, like, black people in the United States make up 12% of the population, and we see the racism here. Now imagine how racist you would have to be to like put that ideology over 90% of the population. Like, we are that racist that we will outwill your will. Like, we're just so racist. Like, we hate it so much, you know, like all 12 of us, we just gonna hold it down. We gonna build forts and buy guns and tanks, and we just gonna be racist as hell. Like, that's top level. That's all NBA racist. You on the one squad. You know what I mean? You start. But we got to be told in, because it's not it's not a far.
We're number two.
Yeah.
We're number two.
Yeah, we're never number one in anything anymore.
American.
And we really push hard for the racism thing. Like, we saw Brexit and was like, raise you Trump. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? Shit, you thought that was wild. Like, what? Why should we do that? So, like, that could be the reason you are committing racist acts. Is maybe the reason you ascribe to racism is because, like, we ascribe to racism. Like, that's just what we do over here, you know? Like,
well, and one of the things, because I'm online a lot, and I feel like that's a question I think that, you know, that comes up over and over again. Like, well, one thing people like to say is, oh, the colorblind thing. I can't believe that's still happening. Every day I'm surprised by it, and every day someone says it. Every day someone's like, all lives matter.
Yeah. I ask people sometimes, are they sound blind? Because I can hear, like, a black dude on the phone versus when I'm talking to a white dude. Like, I can hear it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, we just going to pretend. You gonna tell me. if I call you right now and James called me right after and he was like, which one was the black? Like, I don't know. I just hear voices. Like, you don't got to pretend, bro. Like, I know you can see it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I know it. That shit drives me up a wall. I'm with you. Like, so really? You know, you specifically. Like, it's all of us. We all got to roll. You were able to see, okay, Tell me more. You know what I mean? Like, what other superpowers do you have?
Sorry, I'm
Like, I just see aliens. I don't see no people. Like, you know, like, what do you mean? You didn't notice that man was Asian? Or you can't see that? Or
yeah, but I want us to be more so in other countries and other cultures, but I want to say, like, you know, if you think like the Caribbean, you know, it is, there's still colorism, and we talk about that a lot on here too, but I just think
What was that?
I forgot what I was going to say. And you told
I
me
am not editing any of this.
And you told me you could edit silences easily.
Well, now it's staying.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm like, I got distracted. I was like drinking my wine, and then I was thinking about
This
the Caribbean.
was, I mean, you don't know what just happened at home. I just watched, like, the eyes just went blank.
I forgot what I was going to say.
She was, like, on a jag, and then it was just, like, so, like,
I'm so sorry.
someone hit the reset button.
Wait, what were we talking about? Racism?
Colorism
Oh,
was the last thing I heard in the
yes,
Caribbean.
In the Caribbean. No, but over, like, where it's like you can just be like, los morenitos, and it's no big deal. It's like, this is just a descriptor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And here, the weight for that descriptor gets you arrested at Starbucks. You know, that weight for that descriptor gets you murdered in your fucking backyard.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's why I get so furious when
I feel like we're a
people-
long way from that, so I wouldn't even hold my breath for the like conversation about word choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like the tail end of the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't let that. I would say this as a friend of yours.
Yeah.
I would say, don't let that frustrate you, right? Because it's like, you won't have to wait so long for that. Like, you know, like that conversation, like where we could get to the point where these are just descriptive. Like, we so far from that. You know what I mean? It's hard to even have civil conversations at times. Like, it's, like, literally speaking, you know? It's hostile often. Yeah. You know, just like I was at the women's march, and there was brown women in the front. They were Native, and some white women were I guess interrupting what they had going. I was taking pictures. I wasn't like, but I was overhearing it, and that type of hostility. Like,
was that me?
No. It was
because we did kind of go off because I had like a group.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and we told the white ladies, they were like shushing us, and we got mad.
Yeah, and that's real. And that's the women's march. Like, we on the same agenda. Even amongst, you know, like they talk about intersectionality, but like that's such a clear-cut example of like on the same side of one of the minority groups, there's this race, and it's sharp and it's hard, and people can't even, like, on the same side of the thing can't get together, you know, like, because it's that hostile sometimes, you know, like, so the name stuff is like, way,
I hear you.
know what I'm
I hear
saying?
you.
Like,
I hear you. I hear you.
Did you guys see, speaking of intersectionality in the Women's March, did you see the tweet that went out this morning from the official Women's March account?
No.
Rest in power, Barbara Bush.
Lord, keep me near the cross.
Yeah.
Why are you trying to make me have a fucking aneurysm?
Yeah.
It's still up. Last I checked, I was like, they had to delete that by now. No, it's still there.
Why? Why would they put that?
Because they don't care about us. Like, I mean, that's the issue. Like, there it is right there. Like, it's there's a lot of front going on, and it's frustrating for somebody like me. It's a lot of people conveniently like down all of a sudden, and then they do stuff like, and then it's like, you don't really care though. Because if you really care, you would care enough to, at a minimum, ask 3 people or something. Like, it's an official Twitter account. Like, it's not like you just said it or something. Like, you couldn't take 2 minutes. Let me make sure this is representative of like a full spectrum of whatever. Like, I care about them people over there. You would ask them how would that
Women's
make you
March
feel?
out. No more Women's March.
I don't like it. Like, I don't like that. Like, I don't know what else they tweet. So I would hate for that to be like the one tweet out of 100 tweets that I have no issue with. Yeah. But like, I know I don't like that tweet. That makes me feel some type of
that's
way.
where,
you know, like whatever. That's why.
the sickness or the thing that makes us sick, right, as a country, is, to me, it always comes back to white supremacy.
Yeah.
And
the original sin in a lot of ways. I like how Dr. Diggs phrased that, bro. Like, he once told me that, like, that's a colonization, that the spirit of colonization is the original sin of America, and we can't shake that. Like in the same way humans can't shake the apple. Like, it's like you took a bite. Everything tells you not to take that bite. You know what I mean? Because there's no putting that back in the bottle. Took the bite anyway. Like, all the things that brings, like greed, excess, abuse. You bit, you know what I mean? To become the biggest economy in the world. Quickly, couple hundred years. You can't put that back in the, that's why they tell you not to do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. Like, I hate to be cynical and be like it's doomed, but it's like it's hard for me. I'm hard pressed to imagine the reverse button on that. It feels like a destroy and rebuild situation. Like it's gonna have to go all the way to zero. And you're gonna have to start with something else because you're not going.
Are you talking about zombie apocalypse? Because this
I'm talking about racial zombie apocalypse. I'm talking about like it all goes down and something else pop up.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Because
there's never zombie race groups in those shows and movies, but there would be, if it was real.
If it was real, I feel like we have totally talked about this before, but I feel like
we've talked about the apocalypse a lot.
Because it feels like that. That's how I feel too. Yeah. Not to be, Allan, everything you say is, but I'm like, I think it does have to. I feel like that some days, like there's this like GIF I always use, or GIF, depending on if you know what's going on. And it's always this girl. I don't even know what it's from, but it's just like a big fire where she's blowing everything up. Yeah. And that is how I feel like. I just feel like I just want to burn it all down. Yeah. Because I feel like we have to start over.
That's what American culture feels like to me right now. It's someone sitting just in Park Hill in Denver. Like I'm not the head watcher of the world from New York. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not dealing with racial tension on the borderline in Mississippi. I'm sitting in Denver, and I feel the pressure. Yeah. So, like, I gotta imagine, like, a lot of people elsewhere feel the same way. Like, I gotta imagine they feel this way in Philly, in Brooklyn, in Mississippi, in New Mexico. They got an opioid crisis. They got immigration issues. They got, they probably got a crooked sheriff. Like, I don't know. But, like, there's a lot going on. It just feels like a lot. I feel like it's, I don't like to feel that way.
Speaking of that, I was just thinking, you made me think of Jeff Campbell's show, Honorable Disorder.
I to see that.
Yeah, hey, so I wanted to talk to you about it for a minute, just because that when you said that the opioid crisis, that kind of just made me think about it. And James has seen the show. We went on opening night, and I'm going again for closing night because I want to see it again, because I feel like I'm sure the production has even grown like over the month. Yeah.
And if the last night is sold out, they are going to Facebook Live the whole show and record it so that people can see it.
Yeah. So buy your tickets, y'all. EmancipationTheater.com. Shout out to Jeff Campbell and Honorable Disorder. Yeah, but I wanted to talk to you about, like, what did you think of the show?
I thought it did some great things. There was some parts that I didn't like personally. But I was like, overall, it was like A-. Like, I was highly entertained. It was well written. I liked how they transitioned stuff. I'm no play expert, but I was captivated for the whole show. Yeah. So like that's how I felt. It also reminded me a lot, like on the moral tip of like, I forget about veterans a lot. And I'm so guilty of what they pointed out in the show. Like, that was so well written, because at least for me, because it spoke directly to like, oh yeah, Mr. Righteous, Mr. Anti-Military. You don't know what's going on in my head, dog. You don't know why I decided what I was trying to get a house, bro. I was trying to get my grandmama's house. Like, or I think it was his grandma. I don't know, his mom, whatever. I was trying to get somebody's house. Like, I never, that's not where my mind jumps at all. Yeah. I do, like, in the sense of, like, the social justice warrior, I'd be like, oh, that's terrible what's happening to the veterans or whatever. But I don't really be doing nothing. Like, for instance, like, when I say stuff like, I'll be like, man, what's going on with black people is bad. I don't like this situation, the oppression, whatever. I do things to counteract that. I just give, like, a wink and a nod to veterans. I'm so guilty of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought that was dope to point that out.
And I felt, my dad's a vet of 2 wars, right? And he would never listen to this podcast, by the way. But he never saw any combat even, but he was a black man in the military, right? And that used to like blow my mind as a kid because my daddy's old. Yeah. And like he went to war. Yeah. And he came back and it was still segregated.
Facts.
And he got to go to college because he actually ended up with 2 GI Bills because he was in 2 wars. He was in Korea and Vietnam. Yeah. And so he took advantage of that, but it like blew my mind that you could be a soldier and put your life on the line and then you come back and people are just like, you're nothing.
Facts. I mean, like, I came up, like, in the Boys in the Hood watching movie eras. So, like, I came up to the speech, like, no black man has no place in the army. I think I forget who the actor was.
Lawrence Fishburne?
Yeah, he was in front of the billboard or whatever. So, like, that blows my mind, too, right? Because it was, like, from my growing up years, the ideology has been so... I feel like demeaning towards like getting into the army, like the culture, so to speak. You know, like don't do that. There ain't no place for no black.
No, and that's it. And then, but my father was always like, Rebecca, you should go into the Air Force. Yeah. And I would just laugh. I'm like, come on now. Yeah. Can you imagine me being like, yes sir, no sir?
My granddad fought in the war. I think he fought in Korea. I want to say. Like,
God, you're so young. All right. So you're like my granddaddy.
Yeah, I think my granddad fought in the war.
But Boys in the Hood. So that's a movie you're very familiar with, correct?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite
movies. Just when you mentioned though, I was thinking about when my mom passed away. My mom was white, but I remember what she said about her movie was that she liked the movie, but she was angry at Lawrence Fishburne's character for not leaving the neighborhood. She's like, he made enough money. He should have just left. Yeah. He should have taken his boy out of that environment and, and even at my young age, because I was young when that movie came out, okay? Yeah. So I was like, but how could he shouldn't leave his community. He wanted to like be there and do that. And I just think that again, it's like, it's still this, we're constantly bombarded by this idea of like, what is success by white dominant culture standards?
That's the American dream. No, that's the whole reason we're here. Because we into that idea. You can, jump up socioeconomic ladders and lead the people behind that. Like, that's the whole shit. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the whole reason I go to work. It's like, like, that's it. Like, and the thing is, it's not available often to black and brown people, but to a white woman, it might seem like, yo, that's the natural step. Like, that's the thing. Like, because for her, it might be available to like her peers, and they might all move up together, or some like a generational boom or some shit like that. But that he might, or you as a half person, or the character in the movie might be aware that like, if I go, there's only going to be one of me. And the consequence of that is going to be like 100 people not being even aware that there's a possibility to go, right? Yeah. Like things of that nature. So that just might be that gap, Like it's not available. Like no, we can't just leave because then we leave. Like it's like the classic shit about the NBA player, right? Like and then it's like the hood needs you, but it's like you gotta go, and it's like this like I was in Brother.
You should review movies.
I was at Brother Jeff's thing when he was talking to Chauncey, and they got to talking about that. Like, how do you balance the pressure of being like so successful with being from an underserved community, like being from the hood? Like, how you going? How you going to do that? And like in that case, for a lot of I think white people in general, it feels more natural to like not feel like you're leaving everything behind because other things can come with you. You know, like you won't be the only one of you. Like there'll be others of you. Like just move to the west side. Like I'm not moving to the west side, so I can eat kale and do like I'm not going over there for that. Like that might not. There's not services for me on the next thing. Like they don't even think about me on the next thing. I get love here. This that might not be like
in their mind.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Ugh. Don't do it again, James. You're looking at me. I'm like, no.
I was listening to some of my homegirls that do pretty well, and they like some black chicks that do like pretty well and like whatever. And they were joking that like people forget sometimes that like not a lot of luxury services cater to them, and a lot of like you're seeing more of them now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like natural hair boutiques and spas and like you're seeing it now, but for like the longest time, like on that next, it was you had to like straighten your hair and do the like.
So shout out to my cousin.
Shouts out
Melody Henderson.
Melanie.
Her name is Melody, and she is one of the founders of Curl Fest.
Shouts out.
And that is a huge like natural hair movement. They do a festival every year in Brooklyn, it's so much about that.
And we need more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's dope.
That
dope.
was something that, again, this idea of like white supremacy, like messing up our minds and our heads and stuff. Like before you came over, I had my friend putting some braids in my hair.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about hair and hair texture and all that stuff. And I feel like my hair from the white environment that I grew up in, I felt like shamed by it. Like I felt like my hair was, and the thing is, I'm almost years old, and I still, when I go on a job interview, I straighten my hair.
Yeah. And in the sense of like, I mean, why wouldn't you? If you want the job. It's just like, hey, that's terrible to say, right?
Yeah.
It's like, bro, I was freelancing for a long time, right? And a lot of that had to do with either paranoia or truth that I wouldn't fit into the news establishments that exist today, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons I chose to work where I do work now is Denverite. Is like I felt at that moment that this particular person wasn't going to expect that type of conflict. Like as you are that's what I would like to work with type situation. So it feels like a lot of people feel that way. Like, you know, and not everybody can freelance something. You know, like and that's terrible. You know what I mean? Like, that's terrible, but I get it, you know? Like, I don't think you should be ashamed of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think maybe you should revisit it and maybe put your, like, now that you're in a position, you bossed up. I don't mean to be invasive, but are you educated? Did you go to school?
I have a master's degree.
Okay, you bossed up. You educated.
I'm bilingual.
You bilingual. Flex on them then. Wear your braids. Like, boss up and then don't conform. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, look at you. You got a podcast. You educated. You got the crib. You got a nice little TV. You know what I'm saying? Like, wear your braids then. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the thing for me is I want more black people to feel, like, empowered. Like, I want you to feel like, yeah, and you don't need that job. So, like, if they asking that of you, there should be places where you can go that won't because you so dope. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to feel like that. You know what I'm saying? I want you to feel that way. Like, I'm wearing my braids regardless. Because if you're going to lose not rocking with me, you know? And I think that's what I want. You know, like, people of color to feel like, hey.
I know,
and
you want to feel like
you know
you want to feel so good.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're right. I do think things have changed. Not enough.
Yeah, not at all.
Not nearly enough.
Not at all.
But, and I think it was interesting because Disha, the girl that does my hair, you know, she's young. Yeah. And she's like, people can do it. You know what I mean? She has a whole other, like, outlook on it.
I'm not going to stop till the last little girl get a bad perm. Like, I'm out here. I'm in the activist role till that's over. I don't want to see that one more time.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because that's when I'll know it's over. Like, a baby, like, oh my God. Like, until that's when I'll be like, we've done enough. Because that is crazy. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to be disrespectful to people that do it. Like, I don't mean to be, like, rude or judgmental. But, yo, I would really ask you to investigate why you are perming a baby's hair. Like, I want you to sit down and write it down. Write 5 reasons why this baby needs his hair permed. If you could do that and then read it back and then still do it, then okay. You know, like, but I wanted that to happen first.
So another thing that she and I were just talking about, you know, because she has her son, and I was thinking about discipline.
Yeah.
And we don't hit our child.
Yeah.
yet, I guess. He's only 2.5. But this idea, but the reason behind it is because my husband and I both know what it's like to have a black father.
Yeah.
Or whatever Ken's daddy is, he's mixed. But he's Jamaican, he's black. And like to have that strong physical violence, basically, you know. I mean, we didn't think of it like that, but so we don't do it, and I've been thinking more and more about it because I feel like I don't want to hit my kid, and I don't really think it's, you know, it's not the choice I want to make, but I understand the inclination. Yeah. You know, and now, James, I was wondering, do you guys spank your kids?
No.
Why don't you spank your kids? I know I'm going to get real personal, but
I don't believe that it works.
Yeah.
I think if the lesson you want to impart is that you only have to listen to people who can hurt you physically, I think you've failed. That's what I think.
Yeah. Now, were you spanked as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I see it.
And it didn't work.
Yeah, because you bad as hell.
It didn't work because the second I got big enough that they weren't hurting me, it didn't matter anymore. Yeah. And then you just do whatever you feel like.
Yeah. So I feel like it's different in the black community because... For sure. I mean, why James got to go to church with us on Easter Sunday because they were honoring Dr. Diggs with the Shoes of Justice Award posthumously. So it was a beautiful service, but it was also an extra black service. Yeah. And they put us in like a cage.
Literally, they had like a tank. We were in the back row, and our kids couldn't sit still because none of us go to church.
And we don't hit our kids.
And we don't hit them. And
that's probably what that look you was getting like. If you don't slap that,
boy, I was slapping myself.
Absolutely. That was part of the sermon.
That's true, actually.
He was like, I got some of my best whoopings from the usher. You know?
They had a room
right there.
They had a room they called the cry room that they made us go in.
Yeah,
and it had they said it was soundproof, and it had some plexiglass so we could watch the service, and ushers every 10 minutes or so would come in and try to close the curtain on us. And we'd be like, no, we want to watch. And he'd be like, he would just nod at us and keep doing it.
You want to beat that child. That's what you want. Boy, I know what you need. I know what you want.
It was so funny, but like at the same time though, I feel like it's got this history, and it's because if we didn't behave, you had to know how to behave,
like,
right?
Oh yeah,
but you'd get whooped, but because it was about protecting your child's life, you know. Yeah. Because if you don't act right in front of the wrong person, the white person or the police person, like the consequences are so heavy. Right.
I always found that to be kind of flawed. Like, I totally hear that, like, because I hear it a lot. You know, it's cold, it's a cold world, so I show my kids how cold it is or whatever. I think, that's just, like, backwards logic. You know what I mean? Like, you trying to put the bullet back in the gun. Like, don't pull the trigger. Like, it's like, how do we make a world that's not so cold? Like, that should probably be the bulk of your energy, so to speak, is trying to create a warmer world for that. Even if it's just that in the house, right? Like, even if it's just that's the refuge, right? I think especially black boys, you know, they talk about toxic masculinity and all that. If anything, it's hyper in the black community, toxic masculinity. You know what I mean? Like, like he's allowed to at least take a break, to take the soldier rag off, like, for 30 minutes in the crib. Like, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Because, like, sometimes it's hard to explain, but it's like you can't solve the fire with more fire. It's like he already been through it all day. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's been a lot already. He talk funny. The teachers say he can't read. Kids make fun of him. Might be a little broke. Whatever. You know, like stuff of that nature. And then to come home to more hostility is going to breed a very hard person. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's... And then that's going to lead to a host of other issues. Like, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to make a soldier for the war. Like, and I get that. You know what I mean? But even soldiers need a break. And that, like, to the point of Jeff's movie, like, you can't make people into these like, you can't be a man is a man. You can play a soldier for a period, but you can't be a soldier for life. And like, you gotta like give those young men the opportunity to be like just a man, just a boy. Boy. You know what I mean?
You are like bringing up some shit for me right now. I feel like,
be a boy for a little bit.
But because I feel like I'm pretty hard, and I'm hard with my kid, even though he's little, you know. And I feel like, but that is also how I was raised.
Yeah, me too. I feel like all of my parents was raised that way, and I don't mean this in any type of rude way. But then you look at this. Just look at the numbers, not even anecdotally, just the numbers wise. Look at where we at, bro.
Yeah,
1 in 3 of us about to be locked up. We did. Our schools is falling apart. All types of the family structures falling apart. All types of shit is just collapsing. You know what I mean? And we hard. That's what we got. Maybe we need to revisit the plan.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to look at the play and start running the same. You know, like the toss ain't working. Maybe a revert. Like maybe something else. Because it's like, I just read that Washington Post article, and it's just like stuff like that is frustrating.
Which
the one that was like no change in 50 years in incarceration, housing, or wealth.
Yeah.
Like, but look at where we at. Like, okay, if it was bad then, and it's 50 years later, and it's just as bad, then we got to revisit the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's not the way to do it no more. Yeah. Maybe that's like the murder rate in these areas, or it's triple the rate of over here. Maybe we don't need so many hard people. Maybe we got too many hard people. You know, like, just let's talk. Let's just see. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's why it's good that I married the man that I married, because he's a very calm, chilled out person. But he also, you know, I like to joke and call him incognito, right? Because people don't know the way he looks. And so, but I feel like, so he benefited in various ways. He knows that he's gotten, and he said it. He's like, I took all my white privilege and used it to my advantage. Yeah. You commented on my house. You know, I have this house, right? Because I have that husband that took advantage of the privileges that he had.
Facts.
Right?
The mortgage rates are different. They give me different loans. Chris Rock had the best joke ever when he was describing America. And he was like, I live in a country where the same person can do the same crime in the same place at the same time and get 2 different sentences. Like, that nails it down. Yeah. Like, literally everything else could be the same. Yeah. We could do the same thing at the same time in the same city, see the same judge, and get different years. Yeah. Like, that's it.
Or you could go to Starbucks and try to go to the bathroom and get the bathroom code. And if you're white James, you're taking a piss. And if you're Allen, you're getting fucking arrested. And if Rebecca, we don't know what's gonna happen.
And then like, furthermore, like, especially with media shit like this, people forget that there's life after this. Like, what if they miss work the next day? Like, I know it's probably like in everybody's head, it's like, oh, they're heroes now, or whatever. They really gotta live real lives when we're really in jail. Not planning to be in jail. Them dudes look my age. They could be like 28, 29. They might have kids and shit. Like, this ain't just like ooh, look, racism. This is like, yo, they got locked up all night. You got kids? Like, imagine, you just went to go, here we go with this bullshit. And you supposed to be calm. Because if you don't be calm, they're going to beat your ass. Like, that's, what type of, you know what I mean? Like, beyond the, like, kind of, ooh, Starbucks has racial trade. Like, yo, look at what's going on in your own city. Like, if you live in Philly, like, across the street, they just locking dudes up, bro. And the police gonna come in there. The police chief, I think he was a black dude, if I remember correctly. The black police chief gonna get on TV and say, well, if there's trespassing, we have to arrest people. Like, what the fuck is going on? What? Like, what? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I worry about, I don't like that Starbucks is becoming the headline and the CEO is on interviews talking about how ashamed he is or whatever, because if anyone's trying to act like this is a Starbucks culture problem and not our culture problem, it's a completely wrong conversation. If everybody gets to be like, oh, Starbucks stock will take a dip and they'll take this day off and give retraining, and, you know, we'll talk about how fucked up their corporation is, as if this wasn't done by human beings who happen to be in a Starbucks, who are living in this society and behaving according to those tenets. It has nothing to do with the fact that they happen to be in a Starbucks.
Word.
Yeah. I was actually speaking. We were supposed to talk about anger, and I was about to say, because I thought you were gonna ask me why I was angry, and I was gonna be angry that black people acting surprised. That's what I'm most. That's what I'm most mad about.
My thing too. I was like,
that's what I'm upset as hell. Like, bro, like I would love to talk to them and give like game. Like, so why are we in Starbucks? Because like there's a million reasons I feel like this is a bad decision. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got support. There's got to be a black coffee shop. It's got to. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm hoping somewhere around
Philly,
there.
yeah,
There's a black coffee. Let's start there. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, let's not have this fight with Starbucks, bro. Like, I hate to say it because I don't mean to sound pro segregation. But it's just like, go where you're wanted. And even if that's a segregation of cultures, like, even if, like, you know in that Starbucks they don't want you there, right? Like, I'm tired almost of, like, begging to have seats at tables that nobody wants you at just so you can be like, I'm here. Like, I don't like that. Like, we're going to show Starbucks our dollars don't matter and they're for a couple days and they'll get the point. And it's like, nah, you got to take them dollars and spend them elsewhere. Or we never going to proliferate the culture that you want. You never going to feel comfortable nowhere if you keep, like, that's just not, that's got to stop. You know, like, you can't boycott your way out of this. Because this is not, like, again, it's not Starbucks. It's like, if you're trying to boycott racism, you got to start by spending your dollars. The boycott is not the way to go. It's to be progressive, right? Like, not anti, but forward. Like, what's next? Where does the next dollar go? You feel what I'm saying? Because, like, you can look at the wealth gap if you need me to explain to you why the next dollar needs to go somewhere else. Even after Starbucks, this fades away, and some other company is racist for 2 days, and niggas just that, and then there's a new boycott next. Like, as all of that transpires, that next dollar is what's important. Where you gonna put that? You gonna donate it to Brother Jeff and them? Like, if you're really trying to you gonna, I don't know, buy a Chance the Rapper album? Because it's not like, it doesn't have to be always like super socially aware thing. Are you gonna support Nipsey Hussle? Like, are you gonna put your money in a black bank? Whatever it is, like, there's a million different little things. But like, those things are gonna help a lot more than I saw dudes going to Starbucks and just yelling at baristas and stuff. Like, what type of waste of time is that? Like, they gonna close Starbucks? Like, so they can get a two hour training and laugh and joke. And I worked at like a coffee shop. Have you ever worked in the service industry?
Yeah.
Have you ever worked in the service industry?
Yes, I have.
If they made me do a racial bias training, bro, like, what type of waste of time is this? This is a waste of everybody's energy and time. You know, like, this is just like I'm mad, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's on the front page of major public, like, that's what we talking about. Like, that's like the national conference. And we're not talking about the fact that they didn't get to see their kids or wife. Like, I ain't see that in none of them articles. We're not talking about, like, you know, like, the real impact of over-incarceration and things of that nature, or the criminal justice system. It's like the baristas are racially biased. That's what we talking about.
Again, though, I feel like that's where, when I talk about this bias pieces, I still feel like it's focusing everything on whiteness.
Yeah.
And they're having to deal with it.
I guess I have a question for you.
Yes.
I've wondered this myself. I pondered it, I guess, rather. In a country like this, how would it not be? Like, just the literal makeup of the country. Like, I was, because I read so much right-wing stuff, one point that they harp on a lot is the lack of homogeneity, if I said that correctly, in America specifically, right? Like, other groups, other parts of the world have far more kind of homogeneous societies, right? Like, they have more in common, more languages in common, more races in common. Our economic gap is the biggest, so they tend to be closer in wealth and all types of things, and health. And, you know, like, they don't have these, like, huge, like, over here, and they speak Chinese up the block, and over here they speak Mexican, and then you get the Oakland slang down the block. You know, like, think like San Francisco or something. And with that, is it possible to have fair representation? Like, I just wonder. Like, I just wonder sometimes, like, how do you not I guess that sounds cynical. How do you not celebrate the manifest destiny if you a white person in America and like
I feel like you're asking the wrong person.
14. Because it's a thought experiment though.
No, okay,
so it's like if you are on the winning team, don't you just keep winning? I don't know. Like it's like wouldn't you want it to be all about you? Like if you made up like what is like 60% of the country or something like that? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you expect it to be like?
Yeah, but that number is changing.
Yeah.
Also because of people like me.
Yeah.
Right, and because of the Latino population.
Yeah, and because of being able to identify yourself. Because that didn't used to be the case. You know, like there's new census boxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
yes.
that didn't even used to be an option. Like,
no, you couldn't.
That must have been crazy back in the day. Like you check in the middle.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I always checked black.
Okay.
Because that's what I identify as.
Yeah.
But now I feel like there are spaces for it, but oftentimes I'll still just check black.
Yeah.
You know? Like sometimes I'll be like, I'll check this too. But usually I don't.
Yeah.
But I feel like the question of the country's changing. That's correct.
You should watch Tucker Carlson. You see a lot about how the country changed.
I'm not watching that.
You watch it.
You watch it for me and report back to me.
I got you. I'll send you a summary.
Yeah, I just need a summary. I don't have time for that. You know, I have a
Send you the
child.
highlights.
No, I'm working hard every day. I don't have time for that.
I'm holding it down. I feel you.
That we try to have conversations, right?
Yeah.
That don't necessarily focus on the importance of the white person's feelings during that interaction.
Yeah.
Right? That's something that is pretty typical for like racial conversations or whatever, you know, breaking down barriers, blah, blah, blah. But I just think that I just want them to be different.
I feel you.
I just want them to be different. And I feel like that keeps coming up to me where it's like, can't you just like listen to what I'm saying?
I feel you. It's just like maybe it's just like I don't know. Maybe I'm in a bad place because my bike got stolen today.
Oh, no, Lord.
It just feels like
Yo, if you took Allan Tellis' bike
Oh,
and
I'm coming for you, cuz. Like,
you
look,
stole that
hey.
shit from his office, so you probably do you work there? I don't know.
Yeah.
What happened?
Nah, they didn't work. I saw the tape, bro. Look,
saw tape.
if I see you out here, I'm gonna tell you to run the bike. If you don't run the bike, it's gonna go way left quickly. So like, just know that I saw the tape. I saw your little message bag, bro. I'm telling you.
We're gonna get you.
If I see my bike, bro, it's going down. But I feel like maybe sometimes maybe again it's cynical, but maybe it's like I feel like how long you gonna ask people to listen to you that just don't want to listen? Like they don't want to hear me. Like I mean if they didn't want to hear Frederick Douglass, if they didn't want to hear Malcolm, if they didn't want to hear Tupac, if they didn't want to hear Ali, if they didn't want to hear James Baldwin, if they didn't want to hear Fred Hampton, they didn't want to hear Eldridge Cleaver, they didn't want to hear Assata Shakur, they didn't want to hear like.
And they don't want to hear Rebecca Henderson.
So,
I'll
like,
tell you that.
At what point do you stop having the like? I don't know. I just don't. I don't know when it's like that's just what it is. Like maybe I don't. You know, like I know that's sad, so to speak.
No, but I feel like we've gone over this a lot on this show previously with Dr. Diggs because he was so calm and patient and he would just take on anyone, you know?
Yeah.
And including me. But I feel like that too, where I'm like, I don't even wanna. I'm like, I guess I'm trying to say I hear you.
Yeah.
And I love that the Starbucks analogy where it's like, okay, like, you know what? Why are we gonna put our money in there anyway?
Yeah.
You know? Why are we doing that?
For what? Like for what? Me and my partner on the drive, we were talking about banks and just like major banking systems. And when you think about what the bank system did to Black America, for what? Don't give them another, like, how long we just gonna let them do this? You know what I mean? It's like every 5 years, history of racial redlining, history of.
But how can we catch up?
That's that. I think I think like me and my partner was talking about this. I mean, maybe because we're younger. I'm 24, right? Like,
You're so cute.
yeah, right. I think it might take a generation of sacrifice, like a generation that's willing to sow.
But I feel like that generation was like my dad's generation.
And I feel like I talk to my dad about this a lot because I don't mean to be disrespectful when I say this, but I feel like they sowed the wrong seeds in a lot of ways. Like like you hear the rumblings of it at the end. Like one of my favorite books is from 1968. It's called In Crisis in Black and White. And it was a black professor, and he was essentially saying like, whoa, pump the brakes. What we thought we were doing is not going to... He was describing what Southside Chicago then became. You feel what I'm saying? Because he was like, no, I know what they told you. I know they told you that these public schools like this were going to help you, and that the desegregation was going to... But I'm telling you, it's going to get bad, it's going to get fast. And then you hear like, even somebody like Martin waking up, like at the very end, like, I fear I have integrated my people into a burning house. And you start to see the like, like we thought we were asking for the right thing. And maybe we didn't. You know what I mean? So I think it has to be different seeds this time. You know, like it has to be kind of like a different. You guys are gonna take the same energy, but you gotta learn from the past. You know, like learn.
So
from...
this is kind of a conversation that we had a little bit with Theo Wilson, and because I am who I am, I'm always like, where am I supposed to go?
Yeah.
Where does Rebecca get to go?
Yeah.
When we're talking about, okay, well, we're going to support black on this and black on that, and we're going to have like a country within a country. Yeah. And I feel like, am I welcome in that country? Yeah. Is White James welcome in that country?
Yeah. Is that the question?
That is the question.
The question is absolutely, right? Because like just like anybody's if you have some type of sovereignty, right? That gives you the power to treat people with respect. You feel what I'm saying? And black people, like specifically black, like look black, we have to build that sovereignty. Because at the moment, they doing whatever they want to us specifically.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? And that's no disrespect to you, but like the way in which I would be handled, if wanted to be, is different. Like on a camera, is different than the way they would let you be handled on a camera. They choking us out for selling cigarettes on the street, bro. On camera. Like we need some sovereignty, bro. We got to establish some type of leverage as a group. You know, specifically us. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They shooting 60-year-old men in the back, hobbling away. I ain't see no mixed girl getting shot in the back, hobbling away. You see what I'm saying? Like,
of course I see what you're saying.
You know, like, so it has to be that. And once you have that sovereignty, White James can pull up if White James wants, because we have sovereignty, right? Like, he can't pull up and do whatever he wants to.
Right.
But he can pull up respectfully, and we can show respect back.
Yeah.
But without that level, like, when we're subjugated, it's like, he can pull up and do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And then we can't on the same side. So it's like they don't if we're not gonna get respect over there, it's like we gotta create a system of protection, really, like to be able to then show love, because it's hard right now to show love. And I don't mean in no type of rude way. It's hard sometimes to show love on across racial lines because you know the power dynamic, right? And that's in the back of your mind. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want that to be the case. You want to be able to take people as they come.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And one of those things that I feel like that comes up a lot for mixed people, particularly mixed black and white. But is this idea that those traumas are not my traumas, but I'm traumatized by them.
Yeah.
You know, I put my cousin in the ground.
Yeah.
Because he was shot by the police, right?
Facts.
So that's the reality of it, is that that's partially why I identify the way I identify, because I do feel a far stronger connection to my black family.
Yeah.
Sorry, white family. I know you're not listening anyway.
Yeah, and I totally feel that. That's where it's like, that's why it's so tricky.
It is.
You know?
It is.
Because it's like with in that particular case, I think like, let me say this. Maybe I shouldn't be so specific to the actual color of the skin, like the actual, because I can tell, like when I met you, without knowing you. It's the way you stand. It's the way you, like, it's a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like that gives you, like, reign to walk in and out of.
I feel like, that. Of course, I feel that.
Yeah.
That's something, you know, and I feel like, you know, my film is a lot about that, about this idea of like bridging cultures and you know, and all of that stuff. But this is America.
Yeah.
And so I do feel like we're still always having to choose. Yeah. And it is exhausting.
Yeah.
You know? And one of the things though, before we like wrap it up over here on this subject, I also read an article today that had me rolling. I'm sorry. Yeah. Because this is the title. May I, James? The title is, I don't trust white people in black spaces. I don't call the cops on them, but perhaps I should. And I was reading it, and the picture is, look who the picture is. My fucking enemy. Oh, Michael Rappaport.
Yeah.
Who is trash.
Yeah.
The rest of the world is starting to catch up to what we've been saying about Rappaport since this podcast started.
I've been saying that since when he first went off about LeBron. Because watching him talk, you know, when you could tell, like, bro, you trying to say something else. Like, you know, like, you're not saying it, so a lot of people giving you a pass, but, bro, I could tell, you sound like Rush Limbaugh. Like, you really want to say it. Go ahead and say it. Like, you know, like, that was
so
my
he
feeling.
is on my theme of anger. You know that, you may or may not know that Michael Rappaport and I actually had a Twitter beef.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it gets periodically resurrected because he like does something else, and then I like jump in and I'm like, look at this, he's trash. Yeah. But I liked this though because I was thinking about that idea of, and he's like, this article is by Damon Young. I love him. He's a very funny writer. But this idea of when you see that white person in the black space and you side-eye them a little bit, right? We always, and you're wondering, you're like, oh, well, maybe they're really down, but you're also maybe like nervous that maybe they're gonna like do something, you know? And so, but like, no, for real though, right? You're like, oh, I don't know about this person or why they're here, or what are they doing in this space? And for me, because someone said this to me, and I was at Honorable Disorder, and I'm not going to say who the person was because I really like her, but she like introduced me, and she was like, this is Rebecca. She always tells people she's black. Yeah. And I laughed, but I've never had to do that before I lived here in Colorado. And I would never have even crossed my mind. Like there was this event. It was called Africanda, and it was cool. It's like a African. Yes, it was good. I went to the first one. I had to work, but it was like bringing African Americans together with Africans, and it said it was a black space only. Yeah. Allies respect that. And then I was like, if I was in New York, I would have just gone. Yeah. But I asked. I was like, are half black people, can I come too? Yeah. And I
you in a whole different world.
You know? But it was weird. Like, and I did. And when I got to the door and I went in and I felt the eyes upon me, right? And then I sat down and I was like, I'm here too.
My girlfriend is African. And
she's gorgeous, by the way.
Shouts out.
I'm sorry, not to I've seen her. Alan is a very good-looking young man, but I have to say, when I saw his girlfriend, I was like, damn.
Yeah, you know what it is, and don't y'all look at her either. But she has a very diverse friend group. Her friends range the sexual spectrum, they range the racial spectrum. They literally look like if you were to make a liberal joke, right? And then put it up, right? There's immigrants, there's homosexual people. Is that the right? I don't mean to sound crazy. No. There's gay people, you know, like the Mexican gay. They like a real cool group of people. But she was introduced to my world, which is very black and white, and that's like a weird. You know, like it was a weird moment for her to understand that there is this other side where it's very black and very white. Like there's not many like shades of anything else. I unfortunately, and I don't mean that in no positive way, I don't have many Hispanic friends. I don't have many Asian friends. All my friends are black. Like like down to probably like 95. Like almost all of my friends are black. My family is black. That's my whole day. I watch black movies and black shows. They have a black section for me at Target. You know what I'm saying? Like
they have a Jewish section now too.
You feel me? Like I mean,
Target's doing it.
But for her, it's like a whole new situation because she wasn't allowed to see the world that way. She went to a bigger high school where it was a little bit better integrated, so to speak. Like, I at one point got a scholarship to go to this really rich private school, which was there was 2 black people in my grade. You feel what I'm saying? And then
because I grew up in Westchester County, New York.
You know what I mean?
So
and there was one.
Because guess what? There was 2.5.
You know what I'm saying?
One was Rebecca.
And that makes the world very, very black and white. I'm either with him or I'm with a bunch of people not like me. You know, so that's also been very like interesting for her. Is I know I not that I know your exact feeling of like why do I have to what type of questions, but like I know what it kind of looks like close up because I watch her a lot. Be like. Yeah. This is weird because she's like like one time she noticed how many people looked at me, right? Like when we were walking in the Martin Luther King parade, and like you could see like seas of white people be like, and she was like, "Is that always like?" And I'm like, "Yeah, pretty much." You know what I mean? For a lot of reasons, you know, but like that makes the world very black and very white, right? Yeah. Because when you get in black environments, you don't get that same energy. Like you get a lot of love, like a lot of like, "What's up, bro?" You could just chill in. You could walk in and nobody even notice that you're there. Yeah. You know what I mean? You could just go sit down at the Welsh Cafe. Somebody be like, "Hey, Allan, hey," you know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to like explain what you do, where you from, how old are you, what do you think about you? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And she's new to that. It's weird to watch somebody like, especially somebody also black, be introduced to that. You know.
And that has come up for me a lot with my friend Maria, who was on our Black Panther episode, and she's from Uganda. Yeah. And we had a moment on there where I actually cried. I was getting kind of drunk, but I was just because she's so confident. Yeah. And she told us she never even thought about being black until she went to France. Yeah. You know?
Rawa told me she found out what black was. Like, she was like, we didn't know what to write on the census and shit. Like, you know, like, what do you mean? You know, because, you know, like, and for her, she's Ethiopian from a tribe in Ethiopia, right? Like, there's a title for that. There's like that's a certain group of, like, it's not like, y'all all black, all of y'all, and all of y'all white, and y'all Asian.
Yeah, they go by their tribe. It's
you know, like
sometimes I'm like, I just want to go to Africa. I feel like I would enjoy it.
I'm planning on moving there. When I'm 30-something, I want to have kids one day, so I want to raise them and not here. Yeah, I just don't think I could like.
Well, and that's what my friend Maria's husband is white. Yeah. And I wrote her this poem, and we were doing our thing or whatever, and I was saying, like, she told us, she was like, I can't raise my brown babies here. Yeah. And part of that is from knowing me and knowing what I went through as a mixed race person growing up in America. She was like, nah, we're not doing that shit to our kids. Yeah. And that kind of blew my mind. But today there was this my bad. Sorry, what?
Do you remember when Dr. Umar said that shit about interracial
I can't even.
couples? That shit was crazy. Do you remember that?
Mm-mm. Oh. Speak on it if you will.
Oh, well, what he was saying was he was saying that you can't truly love black people if you're married to a white person.
That's so ignorant.
That's what Dr. Umar said in LA. I know, he's trash. Like a whole lot of weird conversations.
No, and I don't act like I never heard that. Yeah. I got in a fight with fucking Sister Soldier in college.
Oh, from the show?
Sister Soldier.
I know Sister Soldier from like Oprah.
Because she wrote the coldest winter ever, and she came to my college campus, and I felt extra black, especially in my white college, right? Yeah, seriously, like people from my college that see me now, they're just like, oh my gosh, Rebecca, you were so militant, you know? Yeah. And I still am. Hey-oh. But that she came and I went to see her speak, and, you know, and it was such a small group of us that were even there, right? There was like 10 people or some shit, right? And I was feeling every single thing she said, and I was just like, oh, I loved it. And then she closed with, Black men marry a Black woman. Yeah. And I kind of lost my shit in that moment because I was like sad because I was like, yo, like my parents, you know, like, yeah. I think Black love is beautiful also. Let's not get it twisted. Yeah. But I also feel like you can't be legislating people's lovers and shit. Yeah. I don't like that, and I'm not having it.
That's fair. That's fair.
And so I kind of got into it with her, and she does not remember it, I am sure. But I remember it because it was like a moment for me where I felt super rejected in a space that I had previously not been rejected in, like my Black student union and stuff in my college.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate until I saw Theo Wilson's video about that idea. So did you see the Facebook video he did? This is months and months and months ago. Basically speaking out against that perspective, that basically said that that you can't really be for the movement if you have a white partner. Yeah. And Theo was speaking against that, and by far the majority of his Facebook comments were opposed to his stance.
And they told me,
I didn't know how pervasive that.
They commented on my shit too, because I was like, hey, because I felt like his logic in my mind was sound, right? Because he said it on our show, episode 6.
Hey,
but he said it. He said, you're gonna tell me that Van Jones is doing less for the movement than Ben Carson just because Ben Carson has a Black wife and Van Jones has a white wife? Yeah. You're telling me that's what's up? And same thing, Jordan Peele, although I'm always like, Jordan Peele's half Black, guys.
I didn't know that.
He is. Yeah, he is mixed. So is Keegan-Michael Key. They're both half Black, half white. I got my pride. I know all the half rows, okay? I know them all. Yeah. And like, anyway, but that they can't be doing as much because they're married to a white person?
Yeah.
No. That's crazy talk.
Okay.
However, it is this idea, if you see it as like a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
If it's this idea that you're trying intentionally, and people do this, to have a lighter baby and to do XYZ. I know that is real. Mm-hmm. I also know that my parents, I'm that loving generation. So that was a time when America thought that racism was going to be over.
Yeah.
You know? It was like 67.
Yeah.
And then my parents got married in 71.
Yeah.
Right? They thought it was going to be roses and beautiful things, and, you know, even with the fallout and stuff that happened when they got married.
Yeah.
But, look where we're at. Still.
Yeah.
Still. God damn it, I'm mad again, and I was going to tell you something positive.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just wondering. I was just it popped in my head because, like, when he said that and how he said it, I think made people stop and think. Mm. And regardless of like whether they agreed or disagreed, I think that really like how, because what he said was, he was like, he said love is a function of your values. So like Dr. Umar is kind of like, in a lot of ways for me, like the Black version of Ben Shapiro. He's like, he is somewhat of an intellect.
Yeah.
You know, so he can phrase things well. He can ask interesting questions. You know, like, you can speak well, but that doesn't always mean, you know, like, you really got a great point. But I think he phrased it well enough, like, to get, like, people to instantly, like, wait, what? You know, so that I was just wondering.
But that's what,
Check it out.
Back to your Theo thing. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm on you know, I've been drinking my wine.
That's okay.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
Back to everything.
Here it comes. So is that people said on there, like, they were like, oh, I wouldn't trust you in the revolution because you don't know which side you're going to be on, the black or the white. And I'm like, bitch, I know the side I'm on.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm on the side of right, and I'm on the side of justice.
To those people, I would tell that, like, you might want to revisit what you think the revolution going to look like, right? Like, if you think it's about to be some flags and some guns out here, you misphrased the revolution. Like, we gonna die then, bro. I'm gonna end up on your side and we gonna end up dead. So how about you don't talk no more?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how about you don't get to be in the front? You take your ass to the back. We'll tell you what to do. You feel what I'm saying? We'll take it from here.
It was just so...
She's not gonna fly. I do feel like I'm a proponent of black love. And I'm a proponent of black families. I feel like that's really important to me. However, like, yo, again, to the point of sovereignty, like, yo, if you fall in love with some white dude, go rock. Do it like fall in love with the white dude. I'll see you at the meeting, bro.
Yeah.
If it's an all black meeting, maybe he can't come to this one. Whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
But that was like when we went to the Africanda thing. Maria left her husband at home because I was like, he can't come, girl.
This ain't his moment. If you play lacrosse, you can't come to the football field. We playing football today, dog. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that don't mean we can't link up after the games is over. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because that's not a tenable situation. At least it's the way the earth is constructed at the moment. Like, that's just what we gonna do. It's gonna be Wakanda for real, or what? Because, like, there's going to have to be.
I mean, I'm from Wakanda. Everybody knows that about me. Wakanda. So but I messed it up. Anyway, the topic of this idea of us, like, having to have it comes back to the idea of going places that we're not necessarily wanted, and we know that. So why would we go there?
Yeah.
Right? And I saw this, like, Twitter thread today. It's from Elon James White. He's a writer. He's, like, pretty amazing person or whatever. But he wrote this story on his Twitter thread about... He said, I don't even usually talk about this stuff because it's so normal. And it was about him just... going out and trying to get a cup of coffee and having to and he was walking down to the end of the street, and then he realized he had to go back, and then he was all of the little tiny steps that the things that that people of color think about on a daily basis that we don't even, like, mention to our white friends.
Like, Rawa asked me one time why I always have my hands in the pocket when I'm in the store, and it's like, because when I was little they told me that they won't think I'm stealing if my hands was in my pockets all the time. You feel me? And I don't think about that no more. But, like, literally, it's just in my head now. So that when they do be like, what you doing over there? Be like, man, if you don't, you know. Like, you know, those things is real.
So all of those things that people don't understand that we go through. And for me, reading it, even as a mixed race person who in Colorado, apparently sometimes I'm white, but I still, I walk into the room and I scan the room and I know, I count.
Yeah.
I go places and and if I walk into a room full of white people, I don't fucking feel comfortable.
Yeah.
If I walk into a room full of black people, I do.
Yeah.
And I think it's just the daily, like, stresses of that is something that I want to get rid of. And I think your idea, though, of just going to places where you know that you're welcome is maybe part of the solution for that.
Yeah, I think you got to go to the love, you know? Like, if you don't feel comfortable, don't create. There are safe spaces that exist. I don't love that term, but, like, if you need somewhere to feel at home, those places do exist, you know? Yeah. You got to support them. Or else you're not going to have home nowhere. You're going to be in you think the diaspora is bad now. You think you're displaced now. Like, imagine what happens when it gets real bad. You know, like, when there's nowhere for you to go. You know, like, that's not going to be a tenable situation. At least for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. I plan on moving for that reason. Like, I feel that coming. Like, I feel like less and less comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable getting my college education. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I absolutely do. Yeah. Because as I like to say, and this is like my favorite joke, is that to white people, the way I talk, I'm like Malcolm X to them. Yeah. Pre-Mecca. Yeah. Like, they are like, because the stuff I'll say, they'll be like, whoa, they're like scared of me. That's how I was in college. That's how I am now, even.
I have the benefit, I think, of being a quieter person. So, like, I think that helped me a lot. When you get to know me, it could get scary. Because, like, maybe I tell you that, like, I'm obsessed with AFTA, and I think that the African trade union is going to revolutionize the economy. And I think it's the seams on white supremacy are falling apart. Like I can see the tears and kind of like the balloon, like oh, about to pop.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't look good. What's going on over there? You know, like
yeah.
So it's like then I think I start getting like scarier or more like what's wrong with you? Like to people, but I don't come across it like because I let people say really whatever they want. Like I don't really correct a lot of people unless they ask to be corrected. So it's like if that's what you wanted, fine. White privilege is fake. Have at it. You know what I mean? Like if you ask me, I'll explain to you why I believe it's real.
Yeah.
And hopefully I got enough knowledge. Look, Dr. Diggs used to always tell me to sharpen my sword. And like to that. I think he meant just like gather that knowledge, like you know what I'm saying, like so it cuts. Like okay, cool. Like let me cut up that whole bullshit you just throw. Like it's not real. Like hopefully I got enough over here to explain to you and convince you that it is real, you know, or what have you. I think that helps me not get like Malcolm X, like you know, like here she come. Here go Becca again with the bullshit. All I said was I like nappy hair. That's all I said. And now look at, you know what I mean? I said nappy weave. You know?
I went to this white roller derby thing and I didn't have any of my wigs on. I had nothing. And this girl was like, I like your hair.
And then see? And
I got mad.
You know, she shook now. She at home crying. Because look, she was just trying to be friendly. I just asked her, Steve, I just asked her about her hair, and then we were trying to roller derby, and then the next thing I know, like, man, leave that little girl alone. Man, she don't need that pressure.
All right, so now, in a new segment I have created right now, we're going to talk about positive things that have happened for people of color. And here it is. Number 1. Beyonce at Coachella.
Facts.
Okay? Beyonce at Coachella. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to get on the Googles and you need to just check yourself before you wreck yourself. I'm not even going to get into it, okay?
Yeah.
And number 2, we're going to talk about, briefly, Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Okay? Kendrick Lamar won the Pulitzer Prize. Let's tell people, what is the Pulitzer Prize?
So it's a literary award. It's the highest honor you can get as a writer. And he won it for music. So that's important. They usually give it to like contemporary classical artists, sometimes jazz artists, people that they feel have broken ground. And that's important to really phrase it that way. Like he revolutionized a genre of music. That's what they're saying.
He's the first person to ever win it who's not a jazz or classical musician.
Yeah.
Not just first rapper, not just what he's basically the first person in the realm of popular music, including rock and soul and everything. Yeah.
So I just want to acknowledge that is, it's wonderful, I think, in many ways. However, oh shit, here she comes.
Oh, there's a I thought you said this was the positive segment.
I know, but it's still, I can't. Maria haunts me. She's always like, why do you want these awards from the white man? Forget it. She's like, why do you want these whiteness awards? Like, forget it. What are we aspiring to? So even though I was glad to hear that news, ever since I've been knowing Miss Maria, I feel like it's chipping away at me.
I think that's what's so dope about it for me is that Kendrick didn't geek over it. Like, it's just what it is. Like, they gave him a... Kendrick, I haven't heard Kendrick say shit. I haven't heard Top Dog say nothing. I haven't heard the whole camp say anything. And I think that's the right approach. I think, like, as he said in his lyrics, I don't do this shit for the Grammys. I do it for Compton. I think he meant that.
Yeah.
I'll fucking die for the shit. Like, I think he meant that when he said that. So I think like to her point, I think that's trash, right? Like I think like it's cool. It's like, that's dope. You got an award for writing. You're a great writer. You should get it. And that should be kind of the end of the conversation, you know, like, and I think he did that. So I think that sets the pace for how then his fans should respond as well. Like he was like, you know, he doesn't do it for that. And I think that's what makes it so dope to me. Is like he was just that good that like they couldn't. How could you not look at it, listen to it, listen to them, just really listen to it too. Like don't just kind of like listen to it like a lot of people listen to rap. Listen to that like you would listen to Public Enemy. Like really listen to what Chuck D is saying. Really listen to what Kendrick's like. That is crazy, man. Like, I remember I was just listening to Pimp a Butterfly, the album before that, and some of the like bars on there are just so dope. You know, like it's like people sometimes don't understand what he's saying. He was like, they give you crack and liquor, they fuck with you. They give you guns with bullets, they fuck with you, and then Obama say what it do. Which was just like super true and I broke the bars up bad, but it was a super adept way of saying like, and then you got the president that daps Kevin Durant, and they giving you prisons and they giving you terrible schools and they giving you terrible food, but you got Obama like what it do? Like that's that's poetry. That's a metaphor. That's the most beautiful way to encapsulate a very complicated relationship between Black America and Obama. Like that's Black Americans lost more wealth, and it's not his fault. But during that time, while we was like clapping and watching the handshakes, and he could play basketball, like while we was doing all that, the wealth disappeared. There was a housing crisis. There was another drug crisis. The incarceration thing was still going. He deported more people than any other. Like all, what it do? You know, like that. He said that in it's a 5-second bar. You know, like that's incredible writing. Like I don't, you know, like you deserve an award for that. You deserve all the awards for that. You should sweep the awards for that.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel. Like I hope he wins every other award too. Like this is just one of many, if we're being honest. You know, like Outkast back in the day. Like if you listen to 3 Stacks, like how you not. You say he opened up with a Shakespeare sonnet one time in a Goody Mob. I'm like a hip hop head, so like maybe I'm a little in the weeds for people, but like he opened up with a Shakespeare sonnet in the middle of a Goody Mob song, and that shit was fly. Like, you know what type of writer you have to be to like bar out Shakespeare sonnets, you know, and then go right into talking about Cadillacs. Like that's not an easy thing to rap, right? You know.
I see James's face right now, and it's beautiful to me.
Oh, thank you.
Because White James is a hip hop.
You a hip hop head?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a
Sure, guys.
I'm a music nerd. I'm a music nerd, and I'm of the right age that a lot of the music that I'm into is hip hop.
Cool. Yeah, so you know about 3 Stacks then? Like,
sure.
You know what I mean? Scarface. Like some of the even like people that people don't talk about, like because they didn't make it, as especially hip hop deviated to like the more degrading parts of Black culture. They didn't transfer well. Those are some of the, like I was arguing with somebody, and I'll argue this to the death. The best American Black modern poets are rappers. Like, what do you mean? Like that, the best poets are rappers. Do you like? I don't think people give like the Walt Whitman you're looking for is Kendrick Lamar. Like that's what the best writer. In back in the day, Black people weren't able to compete. You know what I mean? Right. Like it's like those writers are the Babe Ruths of writing. Like every voice, who were you competing against? You were the best out of like half the field. What does that mean? What happens when they let Jackie Robinson on the field? You saw what happened. What happens when you let Langston Hughes publish major? You see what happens when you let Oprah get her own network. It's like you can't then pretend like you are actually the best. You know, like you gotta let the whole and then don't get mad when it's Kendrick Lamar getting a Pulitzer Prize. Like, what'd you think? People from Compton couldn't write?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but so then where does that fall in the like letting the proverbial Jackie Robinson into whatever game we're talking about?
Yeah.
That's the opposite of what you're talking about, the Maria point of view, which is like, fight to get into their game. So I wonder how those two competing ideas go with one another. Like, because Beyonce headlining Coachella, that's like a Jackie Robinson moment. Kendrick Lamar getting the Pulitzer is like a Jackie Robinson moment. So there are people. Where does that jibe with that argument of whether you should care about breaking into that game or should just be worrying about creating something separate?
It's usually, for me, equity. Like, do you then get to be equitably represented in the long-term benefits of your talent?
Right.
So it's like, for me, until you can, there's the owner version of Jackie Robinson can also compete to own a team in MLB. Until that's the case, you go to the Negro Leagues, and we just gonna run it up on the Negro Leagues, and people gonna come watch the Negro Leagues, and it's gonna hurt. Cause we gonna ball, cause like that's part of the issue for me is like we produce so much, The black GDP is $1.4 trillion, bro. Like we produce.
Can you lick it back?
Yeah.
Say it again.
The black America's GDP is $1.4 trillion. We're the 13th biggest economy in the world. Black America. We produce like what? We running laps, but we make up 12% of the country, bro. We running laps. Hip hop culture past rock. We dominate. What do you mean? Like we don't in a lot of ways. Like the NFL, right, is again built on black labor.
Boo! NFL, sorry, boycott that shit.
Boxing built on black. Like all of these major, huge institutions, they come and they vulturize the culture that we built. So it's like until we can have equity, until there's more titles, until there's more, then you just sign to a title. Every one of y'all run it up at title. And watch what happens. Everybody go to TDE or go to Tidal or go to Good Music until at Atlantic, Young Jeezy can have proper equity in Atlantic. Like that's kind of where those. And so like for actually the case of Jackie Robinson, like if I would have been his advisor, I would have told him to go to the Negro Leagues. You know what I mean? I would have told them just keep running it up, man. Because like when you look at it, especially really finely, it's usually around the time that those things start to tip towards the black culture. All of a sudden, it's like, well, just pull them in. Like we can't have them just all watching the Rucker Park. Let them play in college then, shit. Like don't fall for that trap. Like don't go over there yet. Bro, like that's just bait. Those are crumbs. They got all the bread over here, and they laying these crumbs out, and they diluting the culture. Just stay over here. Just trust us. Believe in us. Well, we can do it. Like that's what I would say, and I'm starting to see that, like by way, like things like Tidal, things like Beyonce at Coachella, things like TDE, things like Kendrick Lamar's level, things of that nature, things like Black Dollar Saturday at Brother Jeff's locally. You know what I'm saying? Like, stay down. Just do this for the moment. It'll be. That's what I mean by the generational sacrifice. Like maybe they do cut bigger checks in the NBA, but right now, for going forward, it's going to be important that you leave that $100 million, take this $5 million. It is going to be very important for us in 30, 40, 50, 60 years. You know what I'm saying? Like that, we got to change that, bro. Like, I was talking to my girl about that recently. It was like, we plan on getting more educated. And right now, between the two of us, just based on the statistics, we're like one of the, we are making more money as a black household than average, far more money. We 24. That tells me a lot about what's going on. Because I'm not in everybody's pocket. So I don't really count people's money. I don't really care. But if that's the case, there's people raising that has to mean there's people raising whole ass families on way less. So we have to work to make sure we invest in that, right? Like, so maybe right now is not the time to go try to swoop up a house in, you know what I'm saying? Like some area to be like, well, we live over here now. Maybe now is the time to live in Montbello and be like, yo, yeah, it's totally cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's cool to be, you can be fine and be here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not, sometimes, like, you go, like, places, like, where they ghettoize people, where it's, like, they try to put all the, like, make it seem like everybody over here is broken or some shit. Like, we gotta, like, stay down, that'll work, man. There's nothing wrong with the Negro League. Like, I know it feels counterintuitive, but there's nothing wrong with there's nothing wrong with HBCU. You don't have to go to Duke. Go to Grambling, because Duke is winning because you're at Duke. It's not the other way around.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Jay-Z said it once. He was like, "We are the culture. They move with the culture." So it's like, if every number one basketball, imagine the TV contracts. You know what I mean? Like, imagine if the best black, and we're just talking like base, like we're talking athletics. We're not even talking medicine and whatever. I'm talking about just sports. Like, if the top 10% of any major class, like all the incoming freshmen next year decide to sign with HBCUs, what does that look like for TV contracts? They would lose. Imagine that boardroom in CBS. What happened? Imagine that check for the SWAC. Imagine the check that Grambling gets. Imagine the check that Jacksonville A&M, Florida A&M. Imagine the check that they would get, you know? So like, but I see people doing it. Like Beyonce did it, right? Like, she didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? But that's important that people do that. And I don't know if you saw her quote that was floating around, but somebody asked her if it would be too much. Like, people wouldn't get the drum major shit, especially the Coachella audience, because you're looking at young white kids.
They didn't really.
They were a little stiff in there.
Yeah. And what Beyonce said, she was like, at this point in my career, it's far more important to me, and I think she said for my children, that I do what I want. And that's got to be the sacrifice. Like, that's fine if they don't book you next year for that. It's fine if you go to, where did she go? She went to, I think it was the NFL Super Bowl with the Black Panther joint on.
Yeah.
That's fine, bro.
That was the last Super Bowl thing I'll ever watch.
You know? So, like, if you don't get the check next year or whatever, maybe you don't ever get it again, it's fine. It's worth that sacrifice. Like, do it for the culture. That's what they say. You know what I mean? Like, literally do it. Make sure what you're doing is for the benefit.
I mean, don't you
culture.
think that next year why can't Beyonce just headline and rent out a lot that size and make all the money off it instead of giving it to this billionaire who runs Coachella, who gives all the money to focus on the family and the Republican Party?
Wait, what?
You don't know about the guy who runs Coachella? Every dollar that goes into Coachella is Republican money.
Yeah.
Every dollar.
You guys know. I was trying to end this on a positive note, and now I just feel like,
Sorry.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I would not go there because of the outfits, basically, because I seen it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't go to Coachella.
Yeah.
On a positive note, who would have loved seeing Beyonce make references to HBCUs on TV?
Dr. Gregory Diggs.
Yeah.
Nobody would have loved that more than Dr. Diggs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, again, I tell people, Dr. Diggs, I think, was brilliant. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, yo, he knows that that's important. I don't hear that too much. You feel what I'm saying? Like, I never hear that. I hear shut down Starbucks for racial bias. That's what I hear. You know what I'm saying? I hear, what are we going to do about the kid that knocked on the door and got shot at? That's what I hear. I don't hear that Dr. Diggs part enough. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's tough. You know, that's tough sometimes. It's frustrating. You know.
And that's why we're here. That's why we keep carrying on.
Yeah, got to.
him.
Gotta hold the flag. Somebody, hold it up.
Yeah.
Because the truth is the truth. And he told the truth. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yo, rep for the truth. And you'll be all right, probably. You know what I mean? I mean, they shot Martin in the chest.
Yeah.
With a scope. They blew JFK head off.
Yeah.
They killed Che Guevara. Like, you might make it. You might end up in jail. Assange Shakur's still in Cuba, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Might end up in Cuba, She all right, though,
Yeah.
Locks looking luscious and shit. She's good. She's good.
That's all right. I love it. You're like a sauna, baby. Your locks look luscious.
Yeah. Dripping on. And real quick, are we wrapping up? Mm-hmm. Because I wanted to say before we wrap up, all of my thoughts and opinions are reflective of me personally. So I would just like to just say that as a journalist, I don't bring those thoughts and opinions with me. I just want to clarify, because I really pride myself on being like fair and honest and hearing out both sides, whether I agree or disagree with them. I wanted to add that, at the end, just so people know when they read my work, it's not going to read as I speak, because sometimes that's confusing for people, and sometimes it's even angering for people because they want me to be more like I am in my day-to-day life. But it's like I treat it like I would treat any other job. Right, like if I was a surgeon, you're just a surgeon at work. If you're a lawyer, if you're a defense lawyer, even if you know your client guilty, you know what you do? You defend them because it's your job. You feel what I'm saying? I try to do the same thing with journalism.
And I have to say, from my observations, and I am a highly educated woman.
Yeah.
And I pride myself on being able to discern facts from fiction. I have to, because that is my profession.
Yeah.
And everything that I have read that has been written by you, Allan Tellis, I feel like has absolutely upheld the journalistic principle.
Thank you. Because I work hard as hell at that. It's hard sometimes. Like, for instance, I wrote the article about racism at Faith Christian. And, like, moments like that, it becomes very testy to be like, I know what I could do, but I shouldn't, because that would not be just.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
so I really try to be like, tell me what. Then that's why I like the Ben Shapiro's are helpful back contextual info, because sometimes I didn't know what you learned from. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you watch Sean Hannity. I totally know why you think that this is the way. I know why you hate Obama. I know every single reason you do.
Yeah.
So even though you can't explain it to me, I at least have that part. You know, like,
I do.
At least I got that part, you know?
No, the work that you do is admirable,
Thank you.
impressive.
Thank you.
And I feel really fortunate to know you and call you my friend.
Yeah, that's dumb.
You know, I have to say that.
No.
And I know you said you have mostly all black friends, but
Yeah.
can you make room for one half black friend?
Absolutely. I'm actually trying to diversify my friend group. So
I think
what's
you did
up,
it
James?
tonight.
This is a mutually beneficial evening for
James?
everybody.
Pull up, man. We roll drinks all day. I don't know what you into, man.
All right, so check out Allan Tellis. Allan Tellis, where can we hear from you online, etc., etc.?
My Twitter handle is Allan_Tellis, sorry, I don't know how to spell my name. ALLAN_TELLIS. My Instagram is SPWavy. That's where you'll see more Allan type of stuff. My Twitter is for my job, so you'll see more news stuff on there.
All right, excellent.
And I just changed my future profession. I want to be a philosopher, so that's my my aspiration. I'm putting it out there in the universe, just trying to let it resonate. I feel like there's a gap. I don't know many black philosophers, so to speak. I feel like I want to try to write one of them books, sneaking in there one day. That's the end game. So just look out for that.
We're gonna get that Pulitzer for Allan Tellis.
You feel me? You feel me? And I'm gonna just shout out Park Hill on the stage. Hey, shout out Park Hill. I don't even want this award. Fuck y'all white supremacist awards. I'm gonna throw it down, and I'm gonna be like, I'm going back to Park Hill.
That is another goal I have in life. I want to see that acceptance speech.